Hey guys, so in this video I'm just trying to switch out the SSD from my GDP Win 2. It originally comes with this 128 gigabyte SSD. I believe it's from SanDisk, and I'm trying to switch it out for the 512 gigabyte Transcend that I just bought. And yeah, I just want to upgrade my storage, and fortunately GDP Win 2 comes with an easy to access SSD replacement slot, as you can see here. The unfortunate thing is that I believe that this device runs too hot when it runs a higher capacity SSD like this one. So I really do need to install something like a heat cover or heat shield or something like that. So basically that's what this video is going to be about, and this won't be the first time I'm repairing my GPD or making a modification on my GPD Win 2, by the way. These devices, I have a lot of issues. I think the first issue I ran into is fairly common. It's the display cable of the GPD Win 2 just kind of breaking apart. Like, it gets too twisted when you open the hinge multiple times. The display cable eventually stops working. Then you had to buy the part from, I basically had to scour the internet now, because I don't think they just sell it on Taobao or AliExpress anymore. I had to go to dragonbox.de to get it. And then there's a whole video I made about it on my channel. Basically I had to take apart, you know, the lid and then the almost the entire computer, actually, just to access the display cable link, and then plug in the new one, and then display works again. But yeah, display cable issue was one of the most common issues with the Win 2, and basically just the display stops working eventually if you open and close the hinge too many times. But yeah, upgrading the SSD, you would think, would be something fairly straightforward, to just upgrade to something with higher capacity, but it is not. Let me show you guys what I mean here. So I am going to just put in this new 512 gigabyte Transcend SSD in here and show you guys what I mean by it not being able to handle this higher capacity. So this is a typical 42 millimeter M2 SSD here. That's really the kind that that this computer takes, being it's a pretty small computer. But yeah, it just slots in here, and then there's a tiny little screw you have to screw in. So yeah, this is, gotta use like really tiny screw head for this one. Alright, yeah, basically this one in. Yeah, M2 2242 actually tells you exactly which one to use. Yeah, alright. And then basically that's fairly straightforward, just to replace the SSD itself. But I'll show you guys what I mean, the problem with actually having a higher capacity SSD on the GPD Win 2. Alright, I'm booting up the Win 2, and I'm just going to play like a game that will basically be overtaxing the computer. Eventually you'll see that the computer kind of overheats. But yeah, wait for it to boot up, and then I'll show you guys what I mean. Alright, so I'm just running Quake 4 here, which is not like a really new game or anything. It's a pretty old game actually, and I can already feel the SSD getting pretty hot. You know, just putting my hands on it, I feel it getting pretty hot already. I haven't even started playing it yet, but let's just start playing it, see what happens. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure while I'm playing it, the SSD is gonna overheat, and yeah, I won't be able to play much of it actually. Basically, I just want to show you guys what happens when you just swap out the SSD for a higher capacity one. I don't think it just works. Yeah. Anyways, just play this for a while, and we'll see what happens. Okay, see, this is what happens. Right, so you guys can see that I played basically about I would say less than 5 minutes before it shut down. And yeah, that's just because this SSD just runs way too hot. If you try to upgrade this SSD, it's going to run too hot, and because the SSD is separate from the cooling fan or the component right here, it never pretty much gets any cooling. So really, if you're going to upgrade the SSD in the GPD Win 2, you have to make sure you get proper adequate cooling for that, and that's kind of hard, right? Because it's sealed off like this, and unless you kind of make yourself unless you put it down on a cooler component, right? Which basically defeats the point of this device, which is to be portable. Then you can't really use a higher capacity because it's always going to overheat. So I think that's another design flaw I came across with the Win 2, is that this thing just, if you upgrade the SSD, maybe 256 is okay, but if you upgrade to 512 or higher, it's just going to run too hot, and there's nothing to cool it, right? It's just completely separated from the cooling system. So unless you actually, attach something to it, or just, use it with a cooling fan somewhere, it's going to be hard to actually use higher capacity SSD in here. So basically what I'm going to try is, I got this, this is a 2242 M2 SSD. So I just got like a cooler for it, or actually a heatsink, I should say. It's not really an active cooler, it's like a passive heatsink for it. Yeah, I'm going to see if this does anything. Hopefully it does, but we'll see. Yeah, let's just see what happens. I'm curious, because I really want to use a higher capacity with this device, but the problem is, I think the design is not very good, because if they separate the SSD, if they separate this part from the rest of the system, how can it ever get cooled, right? And I think for 128 gigabytes, the SanDisk that they had in there, it was okay, I guess, but once you're putting higher capacities, it's going to be really hard to cool it. So I don't know what GPD was thinking. Again, I don't really trust GPD's designs anymore after so many of their components have issues. Not the only one. The micro PC had a battery issue that I had to fix. The GPD Win 3, the controller input stops detecting and stops working. So there's a bunch of issues with GPD's devices. I've had issues with almost every device they've had. So anyways, I ordered this $8 M2 2242 passive heatsink online. Let's see if it works. So first, this thing, I don't think this thing can fit in here. It's just too small. I can't fit this. Yeah, this thing can't fit. So I guess, ideally you can use it like this, right? You put the little loader here, right, for the heatsink, and then you put the heatsink on top of it, and then you put the screws on here to hold it in place like this. But it doesn't fit, so it doesn't really work. This thing is just too big for the slot. It doesn't fit properly. So I think what I have to do is just put this came with one of these, I don't know how to call this, but some kind of layer over this. I'm going to put it over it. It came with the sticky stuff that you put over it, so that's what I'm doing. I think I have there's another one, but they came with two of them. I'm going to put this stuff over the SSD, and then I'm going to put the passive heatsink over it. Maybe I can just kind of stick it on like this, and maybe that will help. So I'm just going to stick on this passive heatsink. Yeah, because I can't use this one, right? It doesn't fit, unfortunately, so I can't use the screws for that either. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to just, let's see if this works. So I put this in like this, and then I can't put the back cover on, obviously. This is too big to put the back cover on, so I'm just gonna take the screw itself, take it out, and just use the screw itself here. Yep. Okay, nope. Still kind of pop out like that. Wonder then, maybe I need a, okay, maybe I can do it like this. Alright, so yeah, I kind of have to like do a very DIY thing here. Yeah, since this thing doesn't fit, so I can't actually mount the heatsink properly to it, and the top cover here doesn't fit back now that I have the heatsink, right? So this is a very DIY thing I have to do. It's basically I just have to rely on the passive heatsink being kind of stuck to the top with this little adhesive pad here, where I guess it's kind of acting similar to thermal paste or something like that. I think it's supposed to dissipate the heat or help better dissipate the heat, and so that this doesn't pop out. Basically, I just screwed it in just enough so that the screw here is kind of catching on the edge of this little cutout here for the screw. So for the SSD, it's just, yeah, it's kind of really just the small screw holding it in place. And I know that's not ideal. Like, of course, I would want to have the, you know, something to better hold it in place. Both of these things, both the heatsink and the SSD. But yeah, if we just right now, I just want to see if this works. Yeah, this is the best I can do, right? Just kind of having the screw just halfway screwed in here to catch the SSD, and then the heatsink just using this adhesive to stick onto the SSD. And it seems to be holding in pretty well. So let's hope that this passive heatsink component I ordered from online from a Chinese store for $8. You can get it on, you know, eBay, AliExpress, or whatever. Just an $8 heatsink for M22242 SSDs. You can get a passive heatsink for it. Just order it online and then see if it works. Yeah. Anyways, crossing my fingers. Let's check it out and see if it runs. We're gonna test out the same game, right? Quake 4. See if it lasts longer than. Let's see if it lasts longer than 5 minutes, or at least I get like, you know, 10 minutes or something like that. Let's see what happens. So now that I have a passive heatsink stuck to the Win 2, because the bigger capacity SSD, it overheats, so I can't play games very long. Let's see if this helps. Okay, let's see if I can just actually let's just leave it running and see if it runs more than, you know, 5-10 minutes, and yeah, and then we'll know, you know, if it's actually working or not. Alright guys, so it's been over 20 minutes. I've just left this machine on, just, you know, running this game, and so far I've not seen the game shut down at all. So I've not seen the computer shut down at all, which means that that the heatsink is working. So I'm legitimately I'm very happy about that. So it looks like this heatsink here is working quite nicely. So yeah. Now when I play a game, I can last more than 5 minutes, because before, as you guys can see, not having this heatsink, running a game like 5-10 minutes, I just shut down the computer because it just overheats. Now I can run those games without overheating. It seems like this heatsink is working and doing its job, which I'm very happy about. I actually did not know that this was going to work. I didn't know if it was going to work or not, right? I just took a chance to see what would happen. And it seems like this way seems to be working, although of course you cannot put the cover back on, so it looks a little bit unsightly, and yeah, I'm not sure how well this SSD will stay in like this, but still, you know, if you're just playing it like, you know, holding it like this, playing games, then I think it should be fine, right? And really, I think this is the main thing I wanted, because The alternative would be just to use a sort of like cooling mat right here, and that's not portable at all, right? It's, well, at least not to me, right? You have to like kind of lay it down on something while you game, and that's really, yeah, not workable. So for me, just having this heatsink, putting this extra passive heatsink on top of the SSD, if this effectively cools it, which it seems like it's doing, then I think this is definitely the way to go. So at least to have it, you know, at least be portable, right? So I can still use my machine portably. So that's it, guys. If you guys are having overheating issues, if you guys have upgraded the SSD in the GPD Win 2 to 512 gigabytes or more, and you're finding that it overheats, then try out the solution. Just get one of these cheap SSD like M2242 SSD heat sinks from eBay. Just look for them, or from AliExpress or Taobao, whatever. A lot of Chinese online websites sell this as well. It's an M22242 SSD heatsink that just basically attaches. Technically, it uses this loader, right? But since that doesn't work here, it doesn't fit in here. All you need is really this part here that will. You just put that little layer of what looks like thermal paste or something similar to thermal paste. This has adhesive on top of the SSD, and just attach this heatsink on top of it, cools it passively, and it seems like that works. So if you guys are having overheating issues when you upgrade to a higher capacity SSD on the GPD Win 2, then try out the solution. It just might work. So I think it's definitely working for me. So that's it, guys. That's my little journey, I guess, or this is basically what I had to go through just to upgrade the SSD capacity on my GPD Win 2, because normally it overheats. So this seems to be, yeah, seems to be a decent solution for now. And it doesn't cost too much. This thing costs less than 10 bucks. So yeah, that's it, guys. Let me know if you have any comments. Again, if you guys are having trouble looking for it, I can link the I can link one of these down below in the description. But I think this is worthy option to look into if you're having overheating issues with your SSD in the GPD Win 2. So guys, thanks for watching.